For your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hand. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire, and in darkest night, you are close like no other. I've known you as a father, I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God. Hey, 'cause all my life you have been faithful. Oh yes you have. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything, oh Lord. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, oh yeah, it's running after me. Oh yeah, your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. I'm gonna sing. All my life you have been faithful. All of my life you've been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. So good with every breath that I am able. Every breath I'm able, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. Yes, I am. Of the goodness of God. Oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of
All right, how we doing? Good. I'm sorry we're running a few minutes off schedule. We're right at 9:30. Y'all come on, gather in, those who are in the rear and those who are here. First of all, Y'all say goodbye to Chaz Mulder. He's 5th District. Chaz, wave before you walk out. Chaz, woo, wave before you walk out. That's 5th District, congressional candidate. Some of us live in the 5th District. I need you to know that, all right? All right, we are here today. First of all, before I do anything else, would you please thank God for the ministry and work of one Reverend Mr. Dr. Charles McKinney. Give it up for him. What a blessing and a gift he has been to this congregation. And I'm just going to go ahead and let the secret out to this city and to this nation. And to be honest with you, there are a lot of churches who probably going to be calling him because they've seen this, and not because we've done it, but they realize that he's a great resource to do this, all right? I'm going to need one more microphone, if y'all don't mind, down here as well, if y'all get me one. Today, I wanted to kind of wrap up a little bit. I'm not going to do a whole lot of taxing on Dr. McKinney. I have 2 panelists who are going to join us and kind of give us some younger mind perspectives on what we've been talking about, a little bit of what we talked about last week in healthcare, also what we see, but what is the way forward? And let's get some dialogue going from the congregation, all right? So last week, I had one person who's going to help us in the healthcare forum who was unfortunately called away because they were doing healthcare. And it was the midwife, my midwife daughter, Miss Kiara Norman, who delivers babies. Come on up, Kiara. She's going to come, and there's going to be dialogue, and there's going to be some time shared and conversation shared. And then Miss Jamesia Clark, come on up, give her a hand as she comes. She's going to be, as a matter of fact, y'all get close, and I'm going to be far away, so you all can talk and talk about what you, and we're not, again, a few questions, but just dialogue on this morning. Really, first of all, what did you all learn, or what do you think is the way forward in this whole process? You can compliment Dr. McKinney if you want to. He can handle it, right? All right, so share who you are and what do you want to talk about?
Good morning, church. My name is Jamekia Clark, and I've been attending this series, and I have to say, Pastor Norman, this has been a great series that has taken over for this summer. I've learned a lot. It's put a lot of things in perspective for me, and thanks again to you, Dr. McKinney. It's been very informative, so I've enjoyed it.
Hey everybody, my name is Kiara, and I have been able to watch this series online. I haven't been able to be in person. And so just going back throughout the week and being able to sit with this content and digest it has been very helpful, especially as I found out I'm a Gen Zer. I thought I was a millennial, but being in my 20s and learning about this, in elementary education, and now seeing a new perspective as an adult, has been very, very helpful for me.
So do any of the things that we have talked about in past, are they impacting you today, your generation, in your workforce, in your life, in your livelihood? Are any of these things touching your life today?
I would say yes, absolutely, especially for me, when this administration kind of took place and the whole movement of laying off all these black women, educated black women, or even the job market. It's been especially difficult for me in transition. So at first you would hear things about it, but now you kind of feel the brunt of it. And with the redistricting, and you see all the play behind the scenes with the politics, you see like, oh, okay, this is kind of a game plan all along. And so it makes you really have to gear up and shift and adapt to what's come. And I think, like I said, this series, because it gives me a lot of things to think about going forward and how to better prepare myself.
Okay.
For me specifically, in working in healthcare, I think that, like I said, when I was younger, I had big dreams and aspirations, but now coming into adulthood, seeing, like Jamekia said, just some of the intentional game plans and barriers and things that are put in place to be intentional, right, about what they make accessible for certain people, and inaccessible for other people. I think it has given me a wake-up call at a very formative time in my life to not only, chase my dreams and provide the healthcare that I thought about all my life, but to also be very, very intentional myself about how I practice policies that I support, don't support, how I use my voice. So, just piggybacking off of her, it's just kind of opened my eyes a little bit about what it really looks like for me as a young Black woman moving forward.
I have a question for all three of you. When we have conversations like this in open forum, is it racist of us to have these kinds of conversations? Dr. McKinney, I'll start with you.
Oh, I'll take that one. So, no. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, right. No, it's the more some of us affirm our humanity, the more some of us say the truth, the more some of us talk about things that we have been told not to talk about, the rougher it can get, right? There's this quote, in a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. In a time of universal deceit, right? Telling the truth is a universal act. And so, so when you see a set of actions and the results of those actions only impact Black people, and you say, well, that was racist, and someone says, well, no, you're the real racist, you can be like, no, actually, I'm looking at the data. I'm looking at what you did, right? Moves that eliminate hundreds of thousands of Black women from the federal workforce, right? That's about removing Black women from the federal workforce, right? Now, and back in my day, I'm a Gen Xer, right? Now, back in my day, we called that racism, right? And so, I think this is part of our challenge in this moment, right? Is a friend of mine talked about an activist coming to his class once, and he says, you know what the role of an activist is? And I would say activist truth teller, right? The role of an activist is to say, this is a bottle of water. My role is to tell the truth. That's what I do, said this activist, right? And when you do that, then you get questions like, oh, well, aren't you being racist? Aren't you being problematic? Aren't you being difficult, right? You Black women are always, why are you always yelling at us, and so on and so forth, right? These things happen when you tell the truth. These things happen when you stand in truth, when you say, look, you know what, my orientation is toward equality and justice, and you are, right, and you're standing in the way of that. So that blowback, right, is always part of the package when you try to tell the truth in a time of universal deceit.
Is it racist for us to have these conversations, in your opinions?
No, I don't think it is. I think it's necessary. And that's why I think forums and things like this are needed in churches and communities and really just across the board. And just one, so people can get comfortable with it. Because to me, it all starts with conversation. And if we keep kind of tiptoeing around the issues that affect, those marginalized or anything like that, just for the sake of other people's comfort, then of course we're at the disadvantage.
Wow, that's an applaudable statement right there. Amen. We definitely to make other people comfortable, we tiptoe around our own pain. I want you to think about that for a moment. In order for you to feel good, I gotta hurt. What do you think, Kiera?
Well, I won't be different.
You won't be
right,
different from
I'm
the
not
panel?
gonna disagree. Absolutely not. I do not think that these conversations in nature are racist. I think we expose racism with these conversations because I just believe that racism is an infrastructure. It is not a forum or like a conversation. This is a very old infrastructure that has been built and perpetuated over time. And these conversations bring perspective, education, and exposure, but are not racist in nature.
So I have another question, and this is a poll of the audience. Is church the right place to have these conversations? How many of you say yes? Okay. All right. And I'm okay if you disagree. How many of you think that we could have them, but we shouldn't have them in church? Okay. Good. I get different feedback from time to time that people say it's a good topic, but maybe not in church. And that's not from just other people. I want you to know that that's sometimes from people within this congregation, right? Because in some ways, we have not become comfortable in our worship spaces in dealing with things that marginalize people. At one point, fact, not make up, this is real stuff. At one point, the church became so uncomfortable with talking about this subject that it redacted the Bible. There was a Bible called the Slave Bible. I've taught that before, right? Where the entire book of Exodus, the liberation story of a people, was taken out so that it wouldn't be read or talked about or encouraged in the worship spaces. All right? So that's real stuff. So I just wanted to hear what your thoughts are. What then becomes the role of the church for you young ladies going forward? What do you think? What the church ought to be doing? Can we do this? Or is it just hallelujah, praise Jesus, shout, go home?
I think that's the Sunday part of church. I think that there should be spaces in which we are allowed to bring our intellectualism to the church space. I think for people in my age group or my generation, I think a lot of people can be conflicted because religion sometimes has taken away, I would just stick with that word, the intellectualism, right? The faith aspect, which is important for our religious practices, but some people have questions, right? They come to church with questions about the Bible and things that we believe and some things that might seem contradictory. So I think allowing these conversations is how we move forward, because some people see the church, specifically the Southern Black church, as a place to come, cry, shout, praise the Lord, and then we go home, but we haven't addressed some of the questions that sit in our soul that might not be about the Bible, right? They might be about my mental health. They might be about my physical health. They might be about my personal life. How do I align what I live with what we just talked about? So I think that creating these spaces, having emerging generations at the forefront, giving us opportunity like this church always has, to just kind of give opinions, give perspective, and then see that feedback be taken seriously, and implemented.
I agree, and I think that was a really good point of view. And I would just like to say, if not the church, then who? For a lot of us, that's our foundation. We grew up in the church. This is what I know for me personally, church is the highlight of my week. And it hasn't always been like that, and of course I'm not
Say that
perfect.
again, church is the what?
It's the highlight of my week.
Just say it one more time. So my bad ear, I need to hear it in
My
the
church
good ear.
is the highlight of my week.
I'm going to put that on a t-shirt, man.
I know a person. But for me, it's like when we need that weekly replenish, and of course it should be a daily walk, right? But that weekly replenish that we need to go through and deal with our day-to-day. I like that our church is that conscious about tying in things in real time as well as biblically. So we can always see it both ways, and you don't necessarily have to separate the two. And I think that's where a lot of people get it confused. They say, oh, it has to be one way or the other. I think they can coexist and intermingle.
So I can be unapologetically black and Christian at the same
Please
time.
Please do.
Yeah. All right.
Please
All right.
do.
Just a quick question. This past week, I was meeting with some folks who work in the immigrant community. And I sat in fellowship with a woman who works with people whose fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, uncles, and aunts have been snatched up by ICE.
Yeah.
And now they don't know where they are.
Yeah.
My husband was working at his job. A van came, threw him in the van, and drove away. And we don't know where he is. We don't know. We don't know if he's in Tennessee. We don't know if he's in Louisiana. We don't know if he's in Florida. We don't know if he's on a plane. If she can't take her grief and her anguish and her confusion and her pain into a church, then we should shut the thing down.
Right.
If she rolls up on an institution and says, oh, I'm sorry, miss, we don't do politics, because that's political. What are we doing? What are we doing? Right? Because one of the things that we have always known in this church, right, is that this thing about politics being some sort of abstraction, we know that's never the case. It's
That's
never
right.
been the case. Because this is the politics. The politics are mapped on, what does it mean when the politics are literally mapped onto your body? And we can't bring that into church. We can't bring those problems and challenges that we face. And also, we can't talk about the solutions and the possibilities and the potential in this place. We can't do that here.
Before God ever asked the children of Israel for praise, he heard their protests. That's what we tell people all the time. God is big enough for protest and praise at the same time. I shake my fist at God with some days and lift my hand at the same time. I thank him, but I still say I don't like what's going on. And he's big enough for both of them. So that's exactly what this space is for. Amen. Amen. So I want to hear a couple of questions from you as we continue this dialogue. Has anyone had that burning question about the way forward? We're going to take about 3 questions. There's one, Christy. All right, I'll come and come. I'm going to play. Give me time. I'll do that for you. Mal, thank you. Mal, hold on, Mal. Don't give them the microphone. Hold it, because if you give it to them, they start talking and you can't walk away from them.
I'm really emotional, to be quite honest, and I'm not going to try not to take up too much time, but because I'm not only concerned about my children, I'm so concerned about my grandchildren, my brothers, my uncles, and I really wrestle with the aspect of when you said the ebb and flow of Jim Crow, and maybe it'll settle, but it'll come back. And it angers me. Y'all know I don't get to church on time, but I've been here. And I don't mean to be dramatic, but it angers me. I want to fight.
Does anybody?
I don't want to wait. I want to fight. I want to be Marcus Garvey, and I want to go and evacuate. I know our ancestors fought for this land and for our people. I don't want to wait on the ebb and flow anymore. Yeah. So how do I reconcile? That's my question.
Amen. Give that a hand, all right? So let me kind of deconstruct, and then I'll give Dr. McKinney the chance at answering. So first of all, anger. Let's talk about black anger. Anybody know what that is? All right. I had a great professor who helped me to unpack and understand what it meant to live in black skin every day, and the anger that I see people wiping their eyes now, what it means, right? Just to be marginalized and put into boxes or labeled or dealt with in a certain space, place, and time, to be equitable in intelligence in every other way and every other activity, but to not be treated in the same manner. You get angry. You get angry from the stuff you have to deal with, that you just get tired and sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? And so that's a real thing, all right? So we make room for people to breathe when it comes to those kinds of things. And don't hold it and charge it against them, because you don't feel the same level of anger that they do, but it's real stuff, all right? So this ebb and flow, we see it kind of coming back, and it never went anywhere. Don't call it a comeback, because it ain't never been nowhere, right? So now we're trying to strategize and think about how do we prepare a generation and protect a generation, your uncles, your cousins. And women have often felt the need to be protective of men, especially African American, right? To be strategic in our protection. And so I feel that real sense. And then, I'm a dad. And, I got a secret. I'll tell y'all the secret. You know those tickets that y'all don't pay? Those little, traffic tickets, they take your picture? I pay my children's just in case. Right? And I call it my Job ministry. Job interceded for his children just in case. So when I see one of those tickets come to the house, I don't even give it to them just in case they're not going to pay it. I go ahead and pay it because I don't want it to be an excuse for somebody to justify and say, oh, we ran your tags and we saw you had these tickets, so we mishandled your child, right? I live with that tension in my body, right? Real stuff, y'all. There's another book I would give you someday called The Body Keeps the Score. Some of your hypertension ain't because of your job and what you eat. Okay? So we're having a real conversation. Dr. McKinney, we set it up for you to have to deal with all of it. And you're saying you don't have enough time by looking at your clock. You need 2 more hours, don't you?
3. Thank you for your question and your concern. As the father of 3, I hear you. I hear you. In 1955, a 26-year-old preacher in Montgomery, Alabama, who hadn't been in town a very long time, became a part of a protest movement, became the spokesman of that movement. And within days of the announcement that he was a spokesperson for that movement, the harassment began. And the harassment was overwhelming. He was married, he had a young child, another child on the way. And he's a pastor, and he's up had just minding his own black business, trying to lead his flock and do his thing. And the stress and the anxiety was overwhelming. And he writes about how he was feeling one night. And he said, I was ready to give up. In this state of exhaustion, when my courage had all but gone, I decided to take my problem to God. With my head in my hands, I bowed over the kitchen table and prayed aloud. At that moment, I experienced the presence of the divine as I had never experienced him before. It seemed as though I could hear the quiet assurance of an inner voice saying, stand up for righteousness, stand up for truth, and God will be at your side forever. Almost at once, my fears began to go. My uncertainty disappeared, and I was ready to face anything. That's Martin King in 1958, Stride Towards Freedom. So first thing is give it up to God. And he said, God said, I got you, right? But the other thing that's going to happen with King, this is 3 days before his house is bombed. right? So it's like, oh, you haven't seen pressure yet, brother, right? Racial terrorists put a bomb under his house, not his office. They don't pull him over in his car. They planted a bomb at his house to blow up him, his wife, and his children. The other thing that he does and continues to do in the wake of this is that he is always in community with the folks who said we have to address these issues head on. He didn't pray and go off alone. He never did. That's the lesson. And this is the lesson we learn. This is the lesson we take from young people, right? This is a 26-year-old Martin King. Right? Young folk are always like, hey, you know what? I feel some kind of way about this. And y'all could maybe speak to this too, right? Hey, I feel some kind of way about this. And I think some other folks feel some kind of way about this thing that we're facing too. What are we going to do about that? Mm-hmm. Right? Young folk are always thinking collectively in terms of how we should address these issues, right? That's why it's so important for us to energize our young folks' organizations, right? Whether they're 8-year-olds or 18 or 28. Right, to check in and see how are y'all navigating this moment? You know, what's going on with you and your organizations? Broadly define all the organizations, right? And maybe y'all could speak a little bit to that too, right? In terms of how, you know, you all are talking and plotting and strategizing and thinking about how collectively we're moving through this moment, right? The thing that we're gonna do, this is my last point, whatever we're gonna do it together. Mm-hmm. Because that's the only way we get through. It's the only way we get through. We always talk about, I had a praying grandmother, I had a praying grandfather. Yes, they prayed and then they organized. My grandfather was a praying man, and he was a member of the Southern Tenant Farmers Union. After I get up off of my knees and pray, we're gonna go and unionize these tenant farmers in Arkansas in the 1940s. So that's the thing, right? Pray, act collectively.
A male perspective, right in front of you. There he is.
Hi, Pastor Norman, Dr. McKinney, ladies. It's just confusing out there. You got, how do we clarify what's in our best interest when you've got people like, you know, organizations like Muslims for Trump, Blacks for Trump, people who support these policies because they're so desperate, they're looking for an answer in a person. You know, from my perspective, I think the Muslim community that supported Trump wanted the war in the Gaza Strip to end, and they weren't satisfied with the previous administration's efforts. I see lower income African Americans say, I voted for Trump because I'm going to get stimulus checks back and things like that. So I see people supporting policies that are not in their best interest because they're desperate. Money's tight for everyone except for the maybe ultra rich and invested in the stock market. But you know, $4.50 gas hurts me everyday living. And I guess we're just looking for someone to give us the quick fix. So how do I, when I'm interacting with people, you know, bring that forward, that it's beyond the short term, the policies in place. I mean, you just see across the board, immigrant communities that supported this administration because they're supposed to go after the criminals when they didn't ask the definition of what is a criminal. And it's anybody in this country that they deem to not be here legally. I have a lady that comes to support my family. She comes and cleans her house. Her husband was a tax-paying immigrant here illegally, but he was building a business, contributing to our community, and he got snatched up off the street, waiting to get deported back to Mexico. He broke no law, per se, as he committed no major crime. He didn't murder, he didn't rape, he didn't steal, but he came in this country illegally, and he believed in the dream of this imperfect union, yet he's criminalized. So just help me navigate that.
So to frame it, that question is based on people who vote in what is called against their own self-interest, right? Or individuals who possess some deep form of self-hatred even, and they don't see themselves as connected to the larger community. That's not my issue, is how they want to frame it or think that they can frame it. The voting bloc for the person who is at the White House right now doubled from the last election. It was 8 to 10% last time. It became as much as 16 to 20% among African Americans. African American men under 50 largely voted for him. Some said because they could not see themselves voting for not a black woman, a woman, period. It was just a woman, period, right? So this speaks to those types of things that are incomprehensible to what we think is the logical brain, right? So how do we deal? Now, I also got to say this. There were some black women that didn't vote for Kamala Harris either. And they were vocal about it, okay? Dr. McKinney, fix that problem.
Sure. And I'm curious about, I'm seriously curious about what y'all think about this too, right? In terms of young people bumping into, or younger, right? Bumping into folks who have views sort of like diametrically opposed to yours, right? One of the things I think it's important to remember is that this has always been the case, right? Mm-hmm. One of the things we have to make sure that we don't do is look back to the past and project, right, a complete and total sense of like political uniformity over that moment, right? There's not a lot of uniform. I mean, you know, there's a lot of uniformity in terms of, look, you know, if you're black, you're subject to segregation in particular sorts of ways. So, right, so there's a large consensus about segregation needs to go, right? So black folk are on board with that. Mm-hmm. The question of how segregation should go and what should happen with black folk after segregation is a massive point of contention in black communities. And it still is in a lot of communities, right? So all of this is to say, people have to learn how to plant their flag, right? One of the things that you'll note, we noticed in recent elections, right, is, you know, the squeaky wheels getting the most attention, right? The squeaky wheels getting the most, right? And that's the other problem, right? Is, you know, we hear so much about, right? You know, we hear the outsized amount of chatter about the 18% who voted this way, and not enough chatter about the 82% who voted this way, mm-hmm. Right? When you break these numbers down, this is the other thing, right? Knowledge is information, right? When you break these numbers down, in terms of who's voting for whom, right? We are, you know, minorities overwhelmingly voted for, right, that woman that ultimately did not get elected, right? And so the folks who did not vote for her, yeah, we need to have those sorts of conversations, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, ideas articulated strongly and forcefully and powerfully, right, help move us along. There's too much inertia in our politics, I think, right? There was way too much, oh, well, you know what, everyone knows what the right thing is, and they're going to do it. Mm-hmm. How many more times do we have to have these elections when that does not work out the way that it's supposed to work out, right? You know, too many folks stayed at home, right? The largest constituency in the last presidential election and the one before that is the constituency of people who did not vote. That number always dwarfs the voting numbers, right? Republicans, Democrats, registered, didn't vote. It's always up here, right? And one of the reasons it's up here is because so much of the energy and so much of the rhetoric that is being articulated about our politics, right, comes down to these arguments, which are really sort of dubious, I think, right? Well, you know, no one's doing anything about anything, and I'm really discontent. And that's a problem too.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's not actually what's happening, right? If you are a supporter of X, policy X, I am a supporter of policy X, and he is against policy X. I'm trying to get policy X passed, and he does everything in his power to make sure it doesn't pass, and it doesn't pass, and then you're mad at me because policy X didn't pass. What? Well, you know, they don't ever pass it. I'm trying to pass the thing you wanted. He killed it. Him and his party, right? So part of the problem, part of our challenge in this moment too, right, is the queasiness we have about talking about issues in strong and direct ways, and talking about those issues around interests, and thinking expansively about those interests, and making the articulation around why certain folks should be elected and other folks should not be elected, right? Being really clear about that, and clearer about that, right? And engaging in political debates, and becoming members of organizations that are getting the word out and getting the vote out, right? This thing could have been different if more folks had mobilized.
Yeah.
Right? All kinds of folks talking about not voting, but not a whole lot of folks running around talking about how do I get people to go out and vote. We can talk about people not being engaged until we're blue in the face. What are you doing about the engagement? That's the other challenge that we have before us, I think. How are young people navigating this sort of political? Because I'm really kind of curious about, you know, how you young whippersnappers are dealing with dealing with the politics. You know, how are y'all navigating it when you're bumping into people, individuals, or organizations that are sort of diametrically opposed to what you think and how you move?
I actually think that was the direction I was going to go in with this question, or with his question, because it's really about education. I agree, and a lot of people, especially I guess in our generation, don't really understand politics. I'm gonna be honest, I don't always understand it, but I know enough to vote in a certain direction, to research, to see, you know, how does this really affect me every day, like you said. And I don't think enough of us are doing that piece of the work. Like, we're kind of relying on everyone else to carry it, and they ride the coattails of what we end up doing, like those of us who have always voted, or those of us who are keeping up with it. But when you think about it, if you know you want a certain career path or home ownership, or if you have children or any of those things, we're the adults now. We have to think about how this is going to affect us each day. Not just gas, but taxes, you know, child support. A lot of black men complain about that, but you're not even doing the research or the work to back up the very thing that you say you care about. And it breaks my heart when black men especially, or anybody says, well, I'm not gonna vote, I'm not registered to vote. And I'm like, well, why not? Like, this is the time to do it, because you're gonna be the first one to complain, because it's gonna affect you first.
Right.
Like, we are on the front lines of who it affects first. And the other thing I wanted to say is that I think part of that pushback has to do with, I'm just gonna say it, like a proximity to whiteness. A lot of people feel like, oh, I'm voting against this because I want a stimulus check, or, you know, that's clearly against your own interests. And it's like, you didn't even consider this. You're just thinking, oh, I don't want a woman in power, or I don't want, well, to be honest, it's black women that have been at the forefront, you know, or even a woman, period. She doesn't necessarily have to be black, but we get things done. And not to say that men don't or men can't, but there's nothing wrong with change, and we should embrace that. So I think a lot of people, with their miseducation, and the internet is just so all over the place. It's a lot of misinformation out there, and now it's getting worse with artificial intelligence, and you don't know what's real and what's fake. And it's kind of hard to dissect, but I think we really have to stay on that part with the education piece, letting people know in real time how this affects you every single day.
Amen.
Perfect segue into where I was going. artificial intelligence is great, but I really do think there is a dismantling and an attack on critical thinking skills for my generation. I really do. I think we are dismantling the ability to sit down, get information, critically think about it, process it, and then address it. So I work in healthcare, and any patient, I was telling my parents the other day, before I can address anything, I need to identify it and understand it, right? So there's a lot, like she said, a lot of information on social media, and people take what they see and accept it as is without the intrinsic motivation to, is this actually real? Let me go read on this. Let me go explore this one headline, this one statement more for myself. And so, like she said something great, our generation tends to ride the coattails, and I'll include myself. Just recently have I been more encouraged to, do more now that I'm working in these fields. And I tell people all the time, he said, how do we address people who are just diametrically opposed from what I think? I used to just not, right? I just I don't, my dad, I'm very like, okay,
Ooh, child.
shake your head and tell me if you hear rocks, because clearly we're on a different, page. But what I'm understanding is, for our generation, from personal conversations that I've had with people and just things that I've even seen on social media, they think the fight is over, right?
We got a black president.
Yeah, like we had a black president. We got black lawyers and black doctors, and they think the assimilation and the proximity to whiteness is synonymous to freedom, right? So integration is an illusion, in my opinion, because I'm not free because Breonna Taylor couldn't sleep in her house and she got killed, right? I'm not free because Trayvon Martin was just being a black boy and he died, right? So we can't say that, we are amongst white people, or we're, just because it's illegal, right, does not mean that there are people out here who think it's immoral. Like, we're fighting against a system, a mindset, an infrastructure that is being perpetuated. And just because we're able to walk freely per se, because some black people aren't able to walk freely. We can't drive freely. We can't sleep freely. We can't go to the doctor freely. It's a lot of stuff we can't do freely. And so I think that because it was addressed in the legal standpoint, like made illegal or outlawed to do certain things to African Americans or people of color or just minority communities, that they think that the fight is won. But I mean, I won't say that, but I had to think about it. I had to remember where I was. Just because it is outlawed does not mean that it's not ingrained, and you don't always know what people are teaching in their homes. And so there's just a bigger play at hand, and I mean, I'm just being very careful with my words.
I understand.
I'm being very careful.
You're going to tell me when you get home
right.
today, though.
We now see it in healthcare. We see it environmentally. There's environmental racism. We see it in redlining. We see it in accessibility. So, like we said, it's just an ebb and flow. It's not gone anywhere.
Let's give our panelists a hand, all of them. Amen. Dr. Charles McKinney, outstanding job the entire month. Really has brought to the forefront. Yeah, that's right. That's really, thank you so much, Dr. McKinney. All of the additional panelists who have supported us throughout the month, the healthcare panel, this most recent panel of young people here, Alex Warden and the legal panel. I got to show something to Dr. McKinney. Y'all have 1 second, I'm gonna give him the last word. This was my Tuesday piece, you see that? Mm-hmm. This was one of my staff members sending it to me.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I always show Dr. McKinney my most recent hate mail. We laugh at it because it's, people who are just having so many wonderful opinions. We don't comment on it. But at the same time, it comes with the territory. It's part of the game, right? And when you want to call me out for telling the truth, this is a bottle of water, isn't it? All right, it's a bottle of water. I'm still saying when you get through. And so we stand on the truth. I do appreciate your faithfulness to this process. We were thrust into this with a Supreme Court redistricting conversation that I had shared with you a few weeks prior. I had talked to the congressman. We kind of saw this coming down the pipeline. And it hit us, right? And it's on us. But we can't just walk around talking about, I'm mad, right? James Brown wrote that, The Big Payback, right? But it was just a song. So we have to take action. That's why we have voting registration, not just some Sundays. Every Sunday you can register to vote here. You're going to hear about it. We're going to put the pictures up. We're going to show you the district. You need to know where you live, right? If you live in 5, if you live in 8, if you live in 9, you need to make sure your voter registration is updated. You need to make sure that all of your information, and you need to make sure everybody in your household is likewise, okay? You need to make sure all of that information is at the forefront, your fingertips. Everybody who's eligible to vote needs to be able to get to it and vote. Get out the vote. GOTV is a part of what we're doing with Black Clergy Collaborative and other initiatives, all right? So make sure that we take advantage of these opportunities and get everything done. Dr. McKinney, you get the last word. Tell us, first of all, when you coming back?
Whenever y'all will have me.
All right.
Always happy to be in this house. Always happy to be in this house. Always happy to be in the house where we get to chop it up a little bit about not only our challenges and struggles, but the ways in which we gloriously and magnificently rose to the challenges that we have faced. We will always have to rise to those challenges. Those challenges are not going away. They are ingrained into the fabric, into the core of this nation. We can no quicker get rid of white supremacy than we could get rid of the blood in our veins, right? It's a fact of this place. But that should not stop us from remembering the ways that we have moved and can move again when it comes to confronting this oldest and most ancient of evils in this nation with regard to the way it treats folks who look like us. Martin King said, everyone can be great because everyone can serve. It's time to put that to the test. One of my favorite movies is The Untouchables, and Sean Connery's character, it's a great movie, you should go see it. It's about getting rid of the gangsters, Al Capone's gangsters in Chicago in Kevin Costner, Sean Connery, it's great. Sean Connery's character is always asking, what are you prepared to do? I want to get rid of Capone. What are you prepared to do? I want to put him in jail. What are you prepared to do? You see where we are. We see where we are. They came and tried to carve up our district. The medical care that we get doesn't look like the medical care that folks who don't look like us get. People are being snatched up off the streets. We don't know where they are. All of the titanic challenges that we face. It's always funny to me when people say, why are you always talking about racism? I was like, you're asking me why I'm always talking about racism in the single most racially segregated city in the nation? That's like living in Kentucky saying, how come you always talk about bourbon? It's like living in California. It's like living in California. How come you're always going to the beach? Because it's here. This is what we do. Benjamin Mays is my last point. In 1969, Benjamin Mays, the former president of Morehouse College.
And a good Morehouse and a good Omega man.
Okay, all right. So president of Morehouse, he wrote this book called Disturbed About Man. Mm-hmm. And he said, I'm disturbed because as we learn more, and as we gain more, we think we have become more. As we make more money, as we put a man on the moon, as we do all of these things, I'm concerned about our moral core. Because I see a separation between our moral core, between the belief that we have articulated and the way we move in the world. I'm concerned, I'm disturbed about man. I'm disturbed about our society, but we can get it back. We can start to move in the direction that we know we need to move. We can start to bend that moral arc, but we have to put in the work to do that. We have an anchor. We have a core. We know who we can go and call on in our time of need, our time of struggle. We know who heard us pray out in the slave fields. We know who broke up the conspiracy to destroy us. We know that. What are we prepared to do? How are we prepared to move? How are we prepared to be great in the service, not only of ourselves, but in the service of others? The greatest thing Martin King ever did was understand that my future, my destiny, my life is explicitly and directly connected to the lives of the poorest and most marginalized black people in Memphis, Tennessee. I am not free until they are. What are we prepared to do? Some of us like hanging out in places and spaces where the elite. Some of us are really into this proximity, right? This proximity to whiteness. You know who else had proximity to whiteness? Slaves. They had proximity to whiteness too. How'd that turn out for them? That's enough.
All right, we're going to get ready for our 10:30 service. We got 64 graduates to celebrate in the upcoming service. Y'all take a few moments. Ministry team, go ahead and prepare. Music team, everybody get in place. Y'all come by and shake hands with Dr. McKinney for a moment just to congratulate him, tell him thank you for his time here today, and our panelists.